Hi, Janelle Schaefer here with Sheep Hill Herbs. Welcome to my channel. Today is another interview day. I'm interviewing the right-hand woman of Rosemary Gladstar. Her name is Helen Ward, and I got to meet her through an herbal conference last year, and I think it was the Plant Allies one. And she is a very knowledgeable herbalist, the tech savvy part of the partnership and duo with Rosemary. She handles a lot of the computer aspect. If you follow Rosemary Gladstar at all, she does kind of tease herself about not being so equipped and good with the computers, but Helen definitely is right on top of that. So I want to go through her bio that she sent me, and I want to make sure I introduce her the way she has outlined for me. So Helen has joyfully worked with plants for more than 20 years. For the last decade, Helen has combined her professional career with her passion for working with plants by serving as the director of Rosemary Gladstar's The Science and Art of Herbalism course. Helen is deeply committed to sharing Rosemary's teachings. She strives to provide a fabulous learning experience for all of Rosemary's students through deepening their relationship with the Green Nations. Helen has also been active in 2 herbal conferences, the International Herb Symposium and the Women's Herbal Conference. Helen also serves as a member of the Sacred Seed Society, a group dedicated to crafting new, loving, respectful, responsible, and reciprocal relationships with our beloved Earth Mother. Helen runs a family farm in Vermont and enjoys providing herbal medicine to her community. So Helen is going to join us in probably 2 minutes. If you hear any scuttling sounds, I have a little baby kitten at my feet right here. And so she might be making some little rustling sounds. So that's what that would be. And yes, so I reached out. I wanted to interview Rosemary Gladstar. She was, of course, probably a lot of people, a lot of herbalists maybe got their start by her influence through her books or her conferences. 20 years ago for me, I picked up one of her books in an herb shop where I was working, and I don't know how I got my landed in that place, but I was the right place, the right time. Really opened my world to becoming an herbalist and picking up her books and reading them. And I don't remember the book that I read, but I'm pretty sure we had like all of her books. We had like a bookshelf area where you could take books out and also books that were available. So Helen is coming into the meeting, so I'm just going to admit her and get started. So Helen is here with me today, and it is a bright sunny day. I'm so glad to be sitting down and speaking with her. And I love to start by asking plant people, herbalists, to share with us how they got started in this field, because it is kind of unusual, and most of us feel like it's a calling. So Helen, can you share with us how you found yourself working as an herbalist?
Yes. Well, first, thank you for having me this morning.
Oh, you're welcome.
I, like many, I think one of the things that really brought me to herbalism was when I had my children. I have 2 beautiful boys. My youngest was born with severe food allergies and asthma and eczema, the trifecta as they call it. And when he was younger, we lived in the Boston area and ended up going to Children's Hospital often with him. And it was astonishing and kind of unbelievable to me when we would leave with a stack of prescriptions.
Oh, yeah.
It really felt like, and as herbalists now we know to the root cause, and it really was a Band-Aid for me and my husband at the time. And we had 2 children. My oldest was 22 months older, so we had a 2-year-old and a baby. an infant, and we found out that he was anaphylactic to milk and eggs, and he just had, eczema on his skin and was uncomfortable. And when they handed us, I don't know if it was the second or third kind of appointment, that we went into Boston and received this packet of, steroid creams and inhalers. And I just thought, there's got to be a different way.
I can relate to that.
And I do believe two other things. I lost my parents when I was young, and so I didn't have a teacher per se in my family about natural healing and plant medicine, although I do deeply believe it's in my core, somewhere in my lineage, that it's there. And I, in that moment, sensed it and knew it, and then tapped into it, if you will.
Well, that's beautiful. And I think that as we get to know ourselves, we as herbalists and people, I think most of us would say we feel that like deep knowing, or there had to have been a lineage of working with plants. So I'm really curious to find out how you found yourself working with Rosemary in Vermont. How did that all unfold for you?
Yes, it's a fun story. And also, so I lived in Massachusetts, as I was saying, and my husband and I knew that we wanted to have a different way of living. We lived in a cul-de-sac. It was beautiful. We had, the area north of Boston where we lived was really gorgeous, but people didn't really grow their own food, which I know you'll appreciate. And, growing our own food and medicine, and our yard was not conducive to it. The soil, nor there was no sun, a lot of pine trees. We tried to raise beds and all of those things. And the school systems were struggling for us, not for everybody, but just, in that moment for us and our children. And so we moved to Vermont. I live in the Mad River Valley, and we were blessed to find a piece of property, which was an old farm. It had not been, there had been no inputs on it in 70 years.
Oh my goodness.
Had lived on it and done nothing. I mean, not even manure spreading. To my knowledge. And so we started growing medicinal plants. And a friend of mine said to me, "Do you know Sage Mountain and Rosemary?" And I hadn't. I mean, I had kind of been on a journey, and I picked up a book and I went onto her site, and I was petrified, absolutely petrified to kind of step in. It was a new way for me, and new experience. And I signed up for a weekend class. And I packed my camping gear and went on my way. And that first class was absolutely magical to me. The mountain spoke to me. Rosemary's teachings, her generous spirit, her heart, the way she looks at each being, each one of us. It's such a gift that she has of seeing each of us and kind of where we are in our journey. And then also pushing us a little bit further, into that uncomfortable place, which is such a beautiful thing. And so after that weekend, I went home completely full of just inspiration and passion and excitement. And, I think as herbalists, I say often, we are forever learners, and so at that moment, I felt like I had yet another transition for myself. The moment in the hospital where I knew there was a different way, and then the moment that I met Rosemary, and I signed up for every class I could take.
Did you?
Every single one of them, I signed up. I offered work trades. It was like I was in love. I was in love with her and the plants, and just, and it was interesting after, probably after a few of the classes that I had been there, and I was always raised, part of it was my upbringing, not to diverse, but to offer to help. And so I kept, just offering if there was anything I could do at any time. And In her sweet way, she would smile and say, no, we're all set. And
Oh.
and I found myself with her in these private moments. I had probably taken 4 or 5 classes at this time. And there was a moment in her apothecary at Sage Mountain where it was just the 2 of us, which is rare. And I knew it was a gift in that moment. And I said, if you ever need help with anything, I'm available, I'm looking for work. And she smiled and said, oh, thank you, in her sweet, generous way. And I went home and I wrote her a card. It's one of the things that we actually share. But I love writing handwritten cards and mailing them. And I wrote her a note and thanked her, for the class and offered again.
Did you really?
And I went on my way to look for a job in my town. And I went and met with, there was a job at the local insurance company. And the gentleman was a friend of mine, and he said, Helen, really? You want to work here? Like, I think you're going to be bored. And I said, no, John, I can do it. Like, I can do this job. And I went home, and my husband at the time said to me, you don't want that job. Great, Rosemary, one more time. And I sat down and I wrote her another letter. And the following week, I got a note back from her. And that was the start of it. She was working with her son, Jason, to put her printed version of The Science and Art of Herbalism online. And she invited me to work with him. It started as a part-time thing, and we worked together and basically created what now is a very successful online platform that was really his inspiration. And I would love to honor him.
Oh, wow.
Moment.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've been with her for almost 12 years now. And I feel blessed and honored every single day I come to work.
That is a really great story. I'm glad I didn't hear it beforehand. What I love is, and I've heard this before, about like when you have a passion and determining, like you don't quit, you don't give up, you like go for it. And you didn't like stop asking, because I was just thinking of myself. There's been some herbalists and people I've asked like to work with, and I've asked maybe once and they say, no, I'm good. But I love how you just kept offering that. And I've often thought myself, like, if someone offered to help me, I'd be like, oh, sure, I need help. But that's really neat how you just kept offering, and you just, like you said, you fell in love with the plants and that experience. So that passion definitely is coming through. The course is amazing. So I think I'd like you to share some more about the course. I myself have it. I'm not completed. I haven't gone through the whole thing, but it's just.
You will be?
I will, yeah. It's written so lovely. I've never read anything. Like, you can hear her voice. I've only heard her speak in online forums, not in person. But like, I can hear her voice. It's just it's a unique voice, the way she speaks and writes, and it just permeates the books. So anyway, share with us more about it.
So the course is, well, first, Rosemary, I always say, my personal opinion is when you're reading her course, it's like you're sitting in her living room sharing a cup of tea. The experience is so deeply connected. And I feel like that ripples through our entire team. We work really hard, and our feedback constantly is a few things. One is, even though it's a correspondence course and long distance, and we have people globally who are students and taking the course with Rosemary, we are very connected to our students. And I feel like we strive, and it's one of my personal kind of goals and passions, is that we hold our students in our community. What we call kind of our herbal family here at the Science and Art of Herbalism. And I feel like we do that really, really well. not with everybody, assuming that, some people, and we have all different students who come to us. So people who are beginners and who have never worked with the plants before on any level, or who are, clinical herbalists or acupuncturists, doctors, physicians who have experience, but want her certificate.
Exactly.
So, to take a step back and just give a general overview, Rosemary designed the course. It's 10 lessons. It goes through each lesson goes through a different system of the body. And she really teaches, in my opinion, on a physical, emotional, and spiritual level. And speaking to spiritual, it's whomever any of our students believe in, what their belief system is. We honor all belief systems. She really encourages us and empowers us to, all of her students, to step into their own intuition. It's the science and art. And you and I were speaking, that art part of it, the intuition, the knowing, the really believing in yourself. So it's having the education of understanding how our systems work, what foods are nourishing to our system, the plants that are nourishing to each of those systems, and then also stepping into kind of taking responsibility for our own healthcare and those around us. So there's a huge level of self-empowerment, if you will, through knowledge. We say often knowledge is power, and it is. I giggle. There's a story, some of my lowest moments, I've turned, like many of us, we turn to the plants. I have this image of Rosemary, points in my life, and I think there's so many of us that can resonate with this, where if you can imagine her with her long hair and her huge, beautiful smile and her heart, and she's skipping with you, and you're skipping and laughing and, talking about the plants. And then all of a sudden you come to a cliff and she just smiles and pushes you. And I feel like she does that for a lot of us. And some of us fall a little, and then we all fly. She has that way, of really, of encouraging and empowering each of us in our own self-care and kind of self-health. I believe that she, through her lessons, it really helps us change our patterns and our ways of stepping into growing our own food and medicine, and really being a little more self-resilient, if you will. And then myself personally, as the director of her school, I have the blessing and honor of working with our core teachers. So each lesson, at the end of the lesson, there's a series of homework questions. So kind of questions and assignments. So it's a very hands-on course. You submit your lesson via the online website, email, or mailing it to us, and we have a team of teachers who are incredibly diverse that review our lesson, each of the students' lessons. They provide feedback, guidance, really making sure that you're on track as a student with Rosemary's teachings and understanding and knowing the concepts of herbalism and what she's offering in each lesson. And then she reviews each final lesson. And one area that I love about my work is when I can help students who might be struggling. They might have a block of some kind, or feel like they can't do it, or afraid, because some of us come to it and we don't have the experience. And what if, what if that plant will hurt myself or my family, or what if I don't dose it right or make it right? How do I know my tincture is good or the oil isn't bad? So that's where I love that part of my work, is really working through with people and reaching them on their own level.
Well, I think you really explained the class well, and I think what your message is transmits really spot on, because I felt very supported, and I loved the feedback that I received from your teachers. I've done other courses and for longer periods of time, for years, and had very minimal contact and feedback. And that was one thing I noticed right away. I was like, wow, this is really cool. You know, people are, they're reading, they're not just like marking done, they're actually like reading through what I've written, correcting things, making suggestions. So I really did love that, that connective piece. And for me personally, I love the artistic aspect, because I get like, I don't want to say confused, but the scientific names and the science and chemistry of herbs, which I've taken those kinds of classes, it just sort of goes in and out for me. I do really feel like I'm an intuition kind of person. So for anyone who is that way, who's looking at the spirit, I feel like the course is just so perfect when you're like spirit centered and intuitive in your way of approaching the plant world. So it's just beautiful. I'm wondering, did you do the whole course yourself?
Did you? It's a prerequisite.
Oh, is it? Cool.
Yep. Yeah. Yes, I can do it.
And I would love to know, like, you in your bio, you say that well, you run a family farm and you also provide herbal medicine to your community. Can you share a little bit about that? Because I think that's so key as herbalists to kind of like reach out then into our to our neighbors, into our neighboring area. So how do you do that, Helen?
Yeah, so so when I first moved to Vermont and I started studying with Rosemary, I made every herbal medicine I possibly could. And we started a little kind of family business here in the Mad River Valley, and I started going to the farmers markets.
Oh, cool.
And when I first showed up, I probably had 100 different things, you know, tinctures and teas, salves, and I'm exaggerating a little to make my point, but
okay.
I felt like my table was inundated and it was overwhelming for people. And as I started to really learn my community and kind of where my heart was, elderberry is one of my main allies of that plant. I love her nourishing way, that it's safe for everybody. It's a gentle immune booster. So I started making just elderberry products for our community. So I have a handful of tinctures that I also sell, but mainly I'm in 3 stores in our community. I started making the elderberry syrup probably 10 years ago, and I still do. I don't make it year round, depending on the kind of the harvest and our community. It's been and I've adapted the recipe also for our community. So I used to bottle it, and I'd make it, you know, with the full recipe of honey. Have you ever made it?
I have. Yep. I made some this winter.
So there's a level of sweetness, right, that we all like.
Yeah.
And there's a fine balance of also understanding how to preserve it so that it's shelf stable. And what I found is that in order to have it shelf stable, it was too sweet for the likings of everybody here. And so now I make it with less honey, less shelf life. It's refrigerated always. Okay. And the community loves it, you know, and I love the offering. I feel like it's a beautiful give back. And that plant is such a generous, beautiful, you know, it gives us so much nourishment. So, and I used to do more consulting with people, you know. I try to step into supporting as much as I can if people have issues or need, you know, different plant medicines, or if they're ill, I offer recommendations. I mean, it's amazing how easy it is to make herbal remedies from our kitchen, right? And sometimes we forget. Get a simple ginger lemon honey tea with a dash of cayenne is you know, so good for us and healing. So I love that aspect of the community work that I integrate. And it also brings my family into it, you know, and my kids. And as they've grown up, I think it's been really wonderful for them to not only see me doing this work, but also learning about the plants. And many summers we had high school kids working on the farm, and I would teach them about all the medicinal plants.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we do kind of trades, and I used to
Mm.
do a lot of summer camps with middle school kids, my favorite age.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
so open to learning, and we would create these sacred circles, and they would come learn how to make body care products and first aid
Mm.
kits, and I would teach them how to do energy work for themselves of
Oh,
grounding and
wow.
clearing, and it was really beautiful. You know,
Mm.
I loved that age is a beautiful age. Oh, every age is, but
Well, most people shy away from the middle school age as the, turbulent years, but there are some people who really do gravitate to that age group and can really connect with kids at that time. So that's really beautiful that you really have done a lot of work with your community and sharing what you know. And I'm sure people you've shared with have shared, and it's just kind of rippling through.
yes, I look forward to teaching more.
Yeah. So I want to thank you, Helen. I really appreciate your time sharing your experience with Rosemary and the Art and Science of Herbalism course. Do you have a website that you want to share, your own personal or the one for the coursework before we head off here?
Yeah, so the Science and Art of Herbalism website is Science and Art of Herbalism.
Okay.
You can also Google Rosemary Gladstar to find
Mhm.
it. And then my own personal site is 3springsfarm.com.
Okay.
So,
All right, great. I'll put that down in my description too. So yeah, that's great.
great. And thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure connecting with you and hearing about the work you're doing in your own community, and the, you know, kind of the passions that you have around growing your own food and medicine and art is I feel very aligned,
Oh,
and really appreciate what you're doing in your own community as well.
oh, thanks, Helen. So hopefully we can connect again and talk later on. I'd love to see your farm and what you do there. But for now,
Yeah,
I'm grateful for Zoom. So
thank you very much.
have a great day, and until next time.
Sounds perfect. Thank you.